Welcome to all of you to Women's Connect and BTs. This is the FFI Bronze Awards Workshop during the week of 17 May to 21 May 2021. I'm Al Beatty from Boise, Idaho, and
I'm Gretchen Beatty from Boise, Idaho.
you are, oh, well, wonderful. And we're here to share the Bronze Award flies. Now we're going to start out today with a look at where we plan on going. It's the Gray Goose. You see that it's on a curved shank hook. You're going to find that gives you just all kinds of little challenges. Okay, let's look at the materials that we're going to use in the fly today. Then we're going to look into them in depth, but we're going to be using some peacock. Okay, we're going to talk about that in just a little bit here. We're going to be using some Gray Goose, or that's the Gray Goose, but what I'm going to actually use is an approved substitute, which is the turkey tail. And the reason I'm doing that is, you see, this turkey tail is pretty well worked over. I'm just trying to get rid of the darn thing, and I just can't throw away materials. We're going to be using silver wire. You're going to be using silver wire a lot. We're going to be using scud hooks. The width of the hook eye is often a dimension that we talk about. Let's go down here. Which dimension are we talking about? I don't care which one you select, but be consistent in that selection. Don't just switch back and forth from one to the other. But start your thread one eye width back on the hook shank and put several turns in there. Now I want you to notice this bare area right here in front. Let me pop in here. And that is about the same size as what I would call the width of the eye. So that all of the tips will end right at the point where we want to tie it on the hook. And we're tying it on the hook in right back from the hook eye. And I am going to, you notice that I turned my hook upside down. See, it's kind of on the side, off side of the hook with the upside down hook. And you see how the thread torque just kind of pushes that into place as I wrap towards the back of the shank. Well, I'm going to tilt the hook down a little bit now, but I'm going to continue wrapping into the bend until I think I have about a 30-degree angle from the hook point to where the thread is right now. Get my wire started. And I want you to notice how it just went up on the side of the hook. That's all right. I'll just take my thumbnail and push it down a little bit. And then I'm going to start binding it in place, making certain that it's very tightly anchored. And I'm just going to work my way forward. Now, I want you to notice that I think you might be able to see. Okay, there's kind of a, let me zoom in just a little bit. Then what I want you to notice is that the rib is more on one side, then it's kind of on the bottom, and it's not even all the way across there. I want you to notice this tool that I've got. That's my main point. Is all you do is you take your tool, it's called a burnishing tool, or a bodkin, the edge of a bodkin will do the same thing. And you're going to burnish and reposition that wire so that it's on the near side of the hook bottom. Does that make any sense? You've already got the bottom of the hook used up with this stuff right here, the material, the turkey. So you're on the near side. Material we're going to wrap is on the far side of the hook. That's also important.
The near side bottom and the far side bottom.
Near side bottom, far side bottom. Thank you, Gretch. Now I'm just going to pull this out of the way so I can wrap my quill body. And here's where you can get into some trouble. If you try to pull this and wrap it just like you do chenille and stuff like that, you're going to have the fibers twisting over each other, less than evenly applied. So what you do is you bring it up straight like this, stop. Is it in place where it needs to be? Take your finger of your other non-tying hand and push it. Now bring it around, push it. Now I'm going a lot further forward than you would normally go for the body. In fact, I'm going all the way forward to the front of the hook, almost to the front of the hook. And there's a reason for that. And I lost it right there. So let me tighten that back up. And okay, good. Now I got it under control. There's a reason for that, because our wing case is actually going to start right about there where my pointer is. What we need, and it's really important to get a wing case, this is another area where people get into a lot of trouble, is they'll tie the wing case to the bare hook, pull it up, put the thorax in front of it, pull it over, and then wonder why the wing case collapsed on them and it wasn't as wide as it started out to be. Well, what we're showing is if you start out with a wider underbody and the wing case is attached to that wider underbody, then you're going to have less trouble with the wing case collapsing on you. Well, now here we are ready to do our rib. And remember now the rib is on the near underside. We have to pass that under, and now we're going to counter wrap the rib, and we'll start working our way forward. Well, I'm going to show you if you try to just hold it like this and wrap forward, see how that slipped right off the bat? Right off the bat, it does that routine. I'm trying to bring it into there and it slides down to there. What a pain in the neck. Well, there's a way around all that too. First off, I want you to notice that I did half hitch my thread just a little bit ago. In fact, what I'm going to do right now is take it off for just a moment. I don't normally do this, but it might be easier to demonstrate the point. So I'll whip it off, then I'll reattach it here in a minute. We started out on the near side, we pass under and come across. And I want you to notice that because we actually started on the lower side of the hook, it actually repositions itself so it's on the dead on the bottom. I'm kind of jiggling it there so you can see. Had I not done that, it would have worked slightly over to the side and you wouldn't have started on the bottom, you'd have been starting on the side. Hold that in place, come around. Come around. That's turn 3, 4, 5. Just a couple of turns to hold it in place until I get my thread back on, which I normally would not have taken off at this point. Now I'll just set that aside. The wire really needs to be able to grab into the fuzziness of the feather or the quill fibers, and I slid it so many times that it became too slippery for me. So we'll just put up with that. You'll know the difference now. The next thing I'm going to do is tie another fly to the same identical position. Now the next thing we're going to do is we need to use the fly that's in the vise right now. We'll take it out, set it down, and put another hook in. And we're going to tie another one so that it looks identical to as close as we can get it to identical to the one that we've just taken out of the vise. And I'll put it in my hackle pliers just so I can. Okay, that's going to be my gauge. My gauge fly. Have I got it back to about the same spot as far as length of the body? It looks to me like it is. So I'm going to go ahead and tie in my material now tie it again just like I did before. Half hitch in there real quick so it doesn't slip into my bare area of the hook that I'm trying to protect. All right. Now let's see if we've got those pretty close to the same. Of ribbing are better on the second one than on the first one. Before we go to the next part of the fly, let's take a look at the evaluation sheet, because the evaluation sheet is the key to everything that you're going to get a chance get dinged on. Let's go to a screen share first. Now, material selection body. Is the body 2/3 the length of the shank of the hook?
Right.
Is the body hurl the same thickness and smooth? Ribbing, 4 and 5 wraps. Let's go to the next page. Thorax. This is what we're going to be doing next. Peacock hurl wrapped and 1/3 the length of the shank of the hook. I want my first turn of thread now to move into the sacrosanct area. That first turn right there. That's where I'll tie off my thorax. I want you to notice how I hold this and pass it over and allow it to twist it a little bit. You'll always get a better lay on your peacock if you have a half a twist in it as you work your way forward. And remember the dog leg and the jam knot that we did for the head? Well, we can do the same thing to tie this guy off, because you're going to lose points like crazy for having a little bit of those fibers of peacock showing in your head. See how I made that bend back? It also bent back those fibers, and there. Let's take a close-up look. I may be kidding myself. Maybe those. Well, I'll get lucky on that one. However, I got one fiber there that's going to give me fits here in a little bit, but that's all right. Let me cut that off. All right, now it's time to bend over the wing case. And I'm gonna tell you right now, if it wasn't gonna collapse because of you tied it on bare hook, it's gonna collapse now. And here's a way to make it stop. You see this? I got this bodkin. I'm gonna lay that bodkin right there, bend it over and push it into place, not pull it into place. Now, once it's in place, whoops. Now I can just go ahead and tie it down. But the main thing is to use that bodkin at the back. Let me undo it and I'll do it again. I'll probably mess up my wing case in the process, but it's important that you see what you need to do. So you fold that into place, pull your bodkin out of the way, and tie your wing case down. Now you've got a wing case that's on top, and it didn't collapse into a skinny little rail, rather than it covers the top of the fly like you wanted it to. Now I'm going to trim this off. We're right back with it hanging at the back end of the head. Now here's how you make a bad whip finish. You advance your thread to the front. Everybody does this. I did it for 40 years. You say, well, okay, now it's time to do a whip finish. You get the whip finish tool out. You lay the trap. That's what we call this, laying the whip finish trap. And then you start to wrap. First turn at the front, and then each subsequent turn gets a little bit further back on the hook. And you keep going until it's time. Oh, there's a nice 5-turn whip finish, and I'm getting ready to pull things down. Pull it tight. I want you to see what happens. Yeah, it goes under those 5 turns after it lays across the top. That's the weak spot. It's an unravel point if you don't glue the fly, and it's also a weak spot if you do glue the fly. It probably won't come apart, but it's less than really good whip finish. So how do you do a good whip finish? Well, you start back where my thread's hanging now on my hook. You lay the trap. You wrap forward, and I want you to notice after you wrap forward and you're pulling it through, it doesn't lay across the top of those turns. It disappears under, which was the general idea in the first place. Now, the truth of the matter is, you're probably going to end up with plan B. Plan B is what I end up doing most of the time. I end up at the front of the hook anyway. I mean, stuff happens, material creeps forward, things happen. We'll take your first turn back over the head area, and then just continue on by, you lay your trap, wrap your whip just like you do before, and you'll be back to a good whip finish. So you can decide whether you want to use the one you've always used or whether you want to try this one. But we're going to show it to you up close and personal as well. If you want to switch to the vise, let me get my whip finish tool. I'll lay the thread. Each turn forward of the other turn. And that gives us a completed head. And as Gretchen said, the head on my fly is just a little bit big. But when I do the next fly, what am I going to do? Am I going to try to correct it or not? Well, if I'm going to do 6 flies, I probably will. But if I was only going to do 3 flies, you want to make sure your evaluator gets all 3 flies the same. Now, here's one I tied the other day. We'll compare the two. I don't know. I guess the heads are not that dissimilar. Anyway, and now it's your turn.